We were warned. We were warned time and time again that if we went down this path, censorship would get worse. The control over our public and private discourse would be controlled by private companies that are unaccountable and unelected. And we're here. And it's too late. It's absolutely too late. I don't know what can be done. Perhaps a law can be passed. Perhaps regulation is the answer. Perhaps some kind of nationalization. I don't know. I don't think I'm smart enough to know what the right solution is. But listen, public and private discourse are taking place on private platforms. Facebook Messenger, for instance. Their accusations against Facebook that their messenger scans what you say between private parties to deliver you ads. We know for a fact that Messenger on Facebook does scan for prohibited content and will actually block you for sending things that Facebook prohibits. I kid you not, it has happened. Right? That means if you want to message a friend an inside joke and it's too offensive or against the rules, they'll block it and your friend won't receive it. That's private conversations. Then we have to talk about public conversations. In the public, we want to highlight certain information, but a multinational private corporation can now control whether you can or can't. And while I'm sitting here as a social liberal saying, guys, this is bad, and perhaps regulation is the answer, and surprisingly many conservatives seem to agree, which is weird because they're the smaller government type people, the left is saying a private business can do whatever it wants. It's the weirdest thing, absolutely the weirdest thing. And now we have, it happened. Something that I've talked about several times, that payment processors will be threatened by credit card companies, will be threatened by banks, etc. And their, speech on the internet is this big chain where you've got the website, then you've got the data center, then you've got the domain name service provider, then you've got the financial transactions. And at any point, this chain can be broken and your speech can be denied. Patreon recently took down Jihadi Watch. I don't know a lot about Jihadi Watch. It's Robert Spencer. I've got him pulled up. He said, "I've been axed from Patreon without explanation, warning, or notice. No doubt as part of the ongoing efforts of the left to deny all platforms to those who reject its agenda. To those who supported me there, thank you, and I'm sorry we couldn't follow through on plans." He posted this photo. It says, "Your account has been disabled. If you believe this is an error, please visit our help center." Now, people would at first say, why was he taken down? Is it really about the left? Why would Patreon take this person down? They took down Lawrence Sutter in the past. Well, guess what? It actually was not Patreon. You know who it was? Mastercard. Patreon responded to Robert Spencer by saying, "Hi, Robert. We emailed you earlier today, which explained that unfortunately Mastercard required us to remove your account. You replied to us, but if you have further questions, we're happy to keep emailing." He did not violate Patreon's rules, and Patreon had no problem. Mastercard contacted Patreon and told them to remove him, and they did. Why? Because if they don't, they will lose access to Mastercard. In a sense, look at it this way. Patreon could go to Robert Spencer and say, "This post violates our terms of service, you must delete it." And Robert Spencer then has to decide if he's going to remove the one post or lose all posts. And he says losing one post is better than 100. Now we have the next level up. Patreon has probably thousands of creators it brings a ton of money. And MasterCard said to Patreon, delete this one creator or you lose your entire platform. And so Patreon said, okay, we're going to get rid of this one creator. People were blaming Patreon, people were blaming Patreon. They were blaming these fundraising platforms for censorship. And I was telling people, listen, we don't know if the real reason is that a payment processor like PayPal or Stripe is actually pulling the strings. In this instance, Patreon uses Stripe, okay? That may have changed, I'm not sure, but now MasterCard contacted Patreon and had them get rid of this person. Look, I don't know a lot about who Robert Spencer is. Some people have told me that he's, a hate group or something like the SPLC. I don't know anything about him. Some people say he's just, akin to Majid Nawaz, who tracks, he's a counter-extremist and tracks, extremist Islam. The point about what he says isn't what I'm here to discuss. For all I know, maybe he did something wrong. I don't know. The point is, Patreon, it didn't take him down. MasterCard did. And that means we're looking at a future where if one company takes issue with what you do, you're done. You're gone. And we just saw this happen. He's got an article up, and from his Jihad Watch, he says, Patreon and MasterCard ban Robert Spencer without explanation. Well, hold on. Patreon gave you an explanation. MasterCard made Patreon ban you. He says, recently Alex Jones and Gavin McInnes have been banned from various social platforms in a desperate attempt by the left to ensure that the 2016 election results aren't repeated in 2018. Some people say it doesn't matter that these men were deplatformed because they don't like what they say, and what's more, these are all private companies. They are indeed private companies, but they have a virtual monopoly today over the means of communication. And once they start banning people because they don't like what they say, they've set a precedent that is inimical to the survival of a free society. Mastercard exists in what, like every country? So does Visa. Think about that. Mastercard can shut your business down. Let's say you bake cakes, and there's a debate between the government. Well, we have courts, and the courts can decide whether or not it was right or wrong. You'll get sued. Then it goes up to the appellate court, superior court. Eventually, you find your case in front of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says it is now precedent that you must serve the cake in this circumstance, or not, right? However, there is one supreme authority that requires nothing, is unaccountable, and can shut you down at a moment's notice if they simply don't like you. And that is financial transactions companies. I mean, look, it's possible the government could go to Mastercard and say, you cannot do this. But, as the left says, they're a private business. They can do whatever they want. So now you have Mastercard, multinational, multi-billion, $100 billion, hundreds of billions of dollars, transactions all over the world. And they can decide to shut your business down. Imagine you run a small shoe store and Mastercard comes in and says, we don't want you selling this company. We don't like the guy who owns it. Get rid of them. Otherwise, we're going to sever our contract with you. You need to be able to accept credit cards in this day and age. And once we're in a cashless society, this is what's going to happen. Right now, we're seeing Mastercard and Visa as the ones who are, it's Mastercard, not Visa. I don't want to blame Visa. They haven't done anything yet. But they did do it with PayPal. Donations to WikiLeaks, Visa and Mastercard blocked it, and then there was payback. But now we have somebody who, look, I don't know a lot about what he is. He seems to be very concerned with Islam and jihad, but he's been shut down not by Patreon, not by Twitter, not by Facebook or YouTube, by Mastercard. Mastercard's like one of the biggest players in this. What did he do that Mastercard said he violated their terms of service? Or what did he do that Patreon was in violation of Mastercard? I think it's safe to say, at this point, the only thing that matters is Mastercard and Visa. The government can do whatever it wants. But if Visa and Mastercard can shut you down like that, end your business, you're effectively removed from society. We are giving control of our economy to private financial institutions that have no allegiance to the United States necessarily. Mastercard can operate all over the world. And right now, because they're in so many countries, they're effectively invincible. Like, look, I'm not an expert on Mastercard. I don't know exactly what their headquarters are at or anything like that. But if the US came after them, they're way too powerful. Just way too powerful. Imagine if a lawyer wanted to take up the case of this man to go after Mastercard. And Mastercard said, we're going to restrict any transactions. We're gonna sever all your Mastercards, right? Let's say he's got, the lawyer has a bunch of credit cards. They're all Mastercard. And they say, we've just terminated all of your accounts. So good luck, start over. People are going to say, ooh, do I want to take this case or do I want to stay out of this mess? Because imagine what life would be like if you can't spend money. Now, cash still exists, absolutely. And people are worried that once we enter a cashless society, then we're done for. And that is a real danger. Think about it. You go to a store, Mastercard and Visa have denied you. You have no way to pay for things. Look, even prepaid cards are running through Visa and Mastercard. Let's see what we'll go through what he says, and I think we can call this one. He says the whole endeavor had barely gotten off the ground. However, when I received this email yesterday afternoon, it's from Patreon, August 14th, 3:20 p.m. It says, "Hi Robert, my name is April, and I'm on the trust and safety team here at Patreon. I've been notified by Mastercard that we must remove your account from Patreon effective immediately. Mastercard has a stricter set of rules and regulations than Patreon, and they reserve the right to not offer their services to accounts of their choosing. This is in line with their terms of service, which means it's something we have to comply by. I have paid out your remaining creator balance of $475.22 to you via direct deposit. I'm sorry for the inconvenience and frustration this might cause. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns." He says that he was given no warning before this of anything amiss with his account, which at the time consisted of that single video announcing the initiative, along the note announcing that I would be starting a live stream. I want to point something out too. What if it isn't Mastercard? Mastercard operates in a bunch of different countries. What if a foreign country said to Mastercard, if you want to keep operating in our country, maybe it's an Islamic nation, we want you to get rid of this guy. And so Mastercard contacts Patreon and says, hey, look, get rid of him. Mastercard says, look, we're not going to lose hundreds of billions of dollars in transactions for one random guy we don't know about. So they say, kick them off your service. And that's another big problem. With Mastercard, Visa, look, people often said to me that, the conspiracy is that there's going to be a one world currency. I remember Alex Jones talking about, they're going to bring out the Amero and they're going to have, these economic blocks and eventually a one world currency. And I said, there already is a one world currency. Yeah, have you ever seen it? I've got it in my wallet right now. It's a Visa. I can travel anywhere in the world and just swipe it. And it works. It converts the cash instantly and value is exchanged. The one world currency isn't going to be some kind of bill or coin. Theoretically, Bitcoin could eventually be a one world currency if you consider it to be a currency. But right now, MasterCard and Visa operating across international borders have too much control over what people in the US are saying. And think about this. Let's say you're a politician and you process your donations through Visa or MasterCard. And a foreign government says to MasterCard, we don't want this person receiving our services. Could then MasterCard say, it's nothing to do with politics, we're just getting them off of our platform? Because it's a private company, they can do it, right? And that's why I've always been a social liberal and think we should have regulations because free market doesn't necessarily work. That's a whole other debate we get into, but the point is, here we are. We are at a point where MasterCard has banned someone from Patreon and Patreon has no choice. Yeah. I think I might have one more video. Stay tuned. I'll see you then.